Okay, well, hello, good afternoon. Do you hear me well? It's super noisy, and I have the feeling that I'm talking to myself because it's quite noisy here. So hopefully you are able to listen to us. I'm Ursula Oakingtons. I'm the CMO of Scytale, among other things, and I'm super happy to be here. I just came this morning from Madrid, and I'm happy to be here because especially with my former colleagues, and my current colleagues as well from Polkadot ecosystem. So I won't do the introductions. I will let them because I won't do it justice because they're such a brilliant minds. So let's start from Alan, who is sitting on my right.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name's Alan Vey. I am the founder of Aventus. We are a parachain in the Polkadot ecosystem, but focused on enterprise adoption. I have a variety of use cases spanning supply chain and logistics, loyalty and rewards, and consumer brands.
Hi, I'm Nathalie Boyke. I'm with the Web3 Foundation. It's the foundation behind Polkadot. I'm doing public policy and government affairs, meaning I watch out for regulations that might affect the industry and lobby in favor of our industry with politicians.
Hi, I'm Ingo. I'm from KILT protocol, which is an identity protocol which lives in the Polkadot ecosystem. And I'm also, and probably this is the reason why I'm here on the panel, I'm also a co-founder of the Poke initiative, which is the Polkadot key accounting unit, which was funded by the Web3 Foundation and is focusing in the direction of government and industry adoption for Polkadot and the ecosystem.
Hi, my name is Tom Humber. I'm the co-founder of Archisinal, and Archisinal is focused on driving data transparency and accountability in the design and built environments, and we primarily do this through on-chain project management and dispute resolution.
Hello, I'm Irina Karagyaur, co-founder of BQ9 Ecosystem Growth Agency. I help companies like Energy Web grow in the Web3 space. So today I'm here to represent Energy WebX, and luckily we had a big keynote before me that unpacks some of the key solutions that the Energy Web delivers. And I'm also Polkadot head ambassador, so it's great to be here on this panel today.
Fantastic. So we have a good mix of minds and experience on Polkadot. And I don't know if you know much about Polkadot, but Polkadot is one of the ecosystems that started in 2019. And it was founded by Gavin Wood, the co-founder of Ethereum. And he wanted to fix all of the issues that Ethereum wasn't delivering, which is scalability, interoperability. And right now, Polkadot, we just launched Core Time, that it's going to be a game changer for the Polkadot ecosystem. So I'll start with you, Alan, because you've been working with a lot of enterprises. The theme of this panel is about enterprises and government, so we have a good representation here. And as you know, Polkadot is always evolving. As any other blockchain, you need to be evolving. But you've been working especially with a lot of enterprises in different ecosystems through Aventus. And tell me a little bit, like, how do you see Polkadot right now evolving into the enterprise world, especially right now that we have Core Time?
Absolutely. So I think one of the key challenges that we faced with the previous model that Polkadot had around parachains is predictability for the fees, right? So in the parachain model, you essentially bought you can think of it as like buying server time in a batch for up to 96 weeks. So when I sat with CTOs, I mean, we've worked with Vodafone, Heathrow Airport.
Can you put the mic close?
Sorry, is that better? Okay.
That's better.
We've worked with Vodafone and Heathrow Airports and a variety of other big guys. And when you sit with the CTOs in these businesses, they want predictable pricing. You need to give them certain guarantees. So when you're signing a 3-year, 5-year contract, you can't say, I know exactly what we're spending for the first 96 weeks, and then it gets a bit more difficult to define the future. So this evolution to Core Time, where you can derive much better costing and therefore not say plus or minus 100% on your costs, has helped us, especially in some of the conversations we've had, come about it much more productively.
My left, we have Ingo. Ingo is very well experienced. He's based in Berlin, and he used to be the CTO Burda Media. Burda Media is one of the biggest media companies in Germany. So he has a lot of experience from Web 0, Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3, and evolving. And right now, he's working with a lot of enterprises. He's the co-founder of KILT protocol, and now he's launching along with Scytale, Polkadot. Ingo, tell me about how Polkadot is working with governments and with enterprises, because this is the key question that a lot of enterprises in the blockchain ecosystem have tried to achieve, but it's been hard, slow, and difficult.
Yeah, we noticed that too. So I think that blockchain has, for the last maybe almost 10 years, been a nice technology or a nice solution, which actually is still looking for the problem. And that is one reason why there's so little blockchain adoption actually around the world. And some ecosystems took the easy road and said, okay, if the government of X doesn't really need a blockchain, we just pay them a lot of money, and then we make like a press release together and we say that we're actually deploying something in this country, and then it never happens. And everyone's happy because the country got the money and the blockchain ecosystem got the press release. And in Polkadot, we never did this. So we never paid anyone just to make a press release with us. We always were on the standpoint, if we do something, then we actually want to see it used. And Polkadot is going the way that we actually go into big industry and go into governments and actually listen to what they need. And then if we find something that could actually be solved with Polkadot technology, and that is much more than you think, then we say, okay, the ecosystem is going to handle that. And then we give it over to the ecosystem projects and say, we think that you should talk with this government and you should talk with this government, and we have an idea what you should do. And so where do we position Polkadot probably is also a very important piece. Polkadot is, as you probably know, a public permissionless blockchain. As you probably know, a public permissionless blockchain. And when you talk with big industry and when you talk with governments, the one thing that they don't want is a public permissionless blockchain. And that has many reasons. You don't start as a government with a public permissionless blockchain because that is just too scary. When you start as a government, you normally start with something like Hyperledger. And Hyperledger, as we all know, is a pretty old technology, maybe not the best, but there's not a lot of choice. If you want to go as a government in such a direction, you use that. And the cool thing about Polkadot is that it is built around a framework. That framework is called Substrate, and it's also a Polkadot product. And you can use Substrate to build a permission chain, a private permission chain, which you want to have in your bank and which you want to have in your government. And you can later then choose if you want to connect it to the public permissionless part. And that is actually the thing where we get the governments interested and the big industry interested, because nobody loves Hyperledger. Everybody uses Hyperledger, though, because they don't have a competition. And now we come there as the competition, as the better competition, because you can also use it in the public permissionless way if you want to grow in that direction, which you probably want in a couple of years.
Just one thing, Hyperledger is using Substrate for scalability. And Daniela Barbosa, the CEO of Hyperledger, is around here as well. So Hyperledger, as you're rightly saying, it's super slow. It doesn't scale that much. That's why they're using Substrate, as many other blockchains as well, like Cardano, they're using blockchain as well. But without further ado, we have Tom here as well. Tom, he used to be at Parity Technology, which is a tech company that's part of Polkadot. Right now, he has evolved, creating his own company, Archisinal. I can say so many names about that. And he's exploring this new enterprise world as well with the real tokenization. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know that you've been exploring this through Latin America, especially Argentina, where the local ecosystem is growing. And there's a big enterprise right now. Well, no, it's not an enterprise, it's an organization which is called Crecimiento, where Filecoin is very much embedded into Crecimiento, and Juan Bennett, the founder of Filecoin, is very much pushing this forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So just before I get into what Archisinal's doing, just touching on Crecimiento there with what's going on in Buenos Aires right now. Super exciting. They're really trying to push forward blockchain adoption into making it a blockchain Silicon Valley. So we spend a lot of our time in Buenos Aires. We have relationships down there which we're kind of building collaboratively with. My co-founder Tim is part of the Builders program there, which goes on for 2 years. And yeah, I mean, it's a great environment to be in. There's a lot of exciting projects which are working. So when we're trying to find our footing in terms of enterprise fit, it's a great place to be. So before I went full-time in blockchain and Web3, I worked as a quantity surveyor in architecture, engineering, and construction. It's a very, very archaic industry. A lot of people still use pen and paper. So when we're trying to sort of talk about blockchain and advocate for it, sometimes it's not the easiest of conversations, but it's a necessary conversation. Data is fragmented across the whole industry. You have multiple different design softwares, multiple different project management softwares, and all of these conflict with one another. So a big part of my old job was when there was a dispute about cost or time, you had to go through reams of emails, designs, when were things signed off. It was very unclear. So what we're proposing is a system where you have every single key decision in a design-driven project. So, and this doesn't have to just be architecture. This can be product design. This can be anything which has a kind of a planning, design, and execution stage. You have stakeholders who are going to be decision makers at different parts of this project. And we would have multi-sig solutions which can be signed off, and then that's permanently put on chain. And then as you go through the course of a project planning stage, you start to have a transparent timeline. The UK government actually brought out something really interesting this year called the Golden Thread legislation. And basically what this is a mandate and it's a responsibility for any contractors or developers. And when I say developers, I mean physical developers, not software ones in just this one instance, to have everything put on an immutable ledger, right? And it needs to be transparent. So this is where we come in. In terms of what's really important to us right now, it's the usability. You know, if you're dealing with traditional industries, you need to be able to have people using their existing softwares. You need to be able to have people paying with currencies that they're used to paying with, logging in with methods that they're used to using. So I think that this Web 2.5 is, you know, it's a bit of a buzzword, but I do think it's very necessary because you need to really think about the end users. And then just going past the project management piece, we'll look at decentralized dispute resolution. So we'll have KYC, DIDs, where you have your credentials verified, and then that gives you access to opine and resolve cases. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing at Archisinal. That's
fantastic. So as you already have heard in the previous panel about the energy web, we have Irina here. Irina, she's a force within the Polkadot ecosystem. She's a head ambassador working with different projects, and she's pretty much embedded into the crypto world as well. She's everywhere. Everywhere you go, you will see Irina somewhere. And so, but she's working a lot on how to bring enterprises into crypto and especially Polkadot. So Irina, how has been your journey so far? And are we ready to bring a lot of enterprises into the crypto ecosystem? And why Polkadot is different?
My journey has been like an energy everywhere. Energy is everywhere, so I'm everywhere, have to be. Peter Drucker said, energy, it's not a sector of economy, it is the economy. Because energy sector represents 10% of the global economy, and yet all other sectors, they run on energy. They depend on energy. The biggest wealth in the world was built on energy. Energy sector produced J.D. Rockefeller. And now we have this big discussion on energy transition and transition from hydrogen to sustainable, renewable sources of energy. And this is the most pressing topic in Europe. And yet we have seen that all of the companies that are working on energy transition, vast majority of them, are centralized. So what Polkadot brings, and Energy Web being one of the parachains of Polkadot, relying on Polkadot's security, interoperability, and its community, is bringing decentralization and is giving power back to the hands of the people. You've heard about worker nodes. Everybody, without the need of deep technical knowledge, can run this application and can help companies to become more transparent, more accountable, and more sustainable. Because every single company at some point will have to comply with regulations on sustainability and will have to report on ESG. And we as a community, we as consumers of energy, can make sure that this reporting, this compliance is true, and we can verify it. So what Energy Web helps to do is to verify this logic. And why Polkadot? Well, because Polkadot, by its architecture and its nature, is the top sustainable blockchain ecosystem. It is proven by the Crypto Research Institute, by UCL. There are independent research documents available online that anyone can access and see the data. And I am personally working in the field of sustainability for the past 4 years already, being present at conferences like Conference of the Parties, climate, initiated by United Nations Climate Conference, to initiate this dialogue and to work with companies that want to be much more transparent, and there are plenty of enterprises, and to want to bring change to their business models. And with Energy Web, what we can currently do, and we can actually enable these companies becoming, using the public blockchain, not just Hyperledger. Why? Because Energy Web solution helps companies to hide the logic that is sensitive, there is commercial information that they do not want to make public, and unpack the information and the processes that are desirable for the public to see, where the public can verify that the solutions are, that the company that claims to use sustainable energy sources is actually doing so. And there are also multiple applications like Auto Green Charge that allows individuals using electric vehicles to verify that the vehicle is really charging from the sustainable energy source. And this is done in your application. So there's been really quite a lot developed in terms of solutions and in terms of traceability and accountability. And we can keep our governments in check, and we can make sure that also we earn rewards by supporting this industry transition by, for example, running a worker node and actually earning a reward and redistributing the wealth.
Fantastic. So we know now that Polkadot is one of the greenest blockchain. It's just the fact that we haven't announced it super loud, but it's not been saying because of the Web3 Foundation or Parity or Polkadot has been saying that. It was an external institute that they did a lot of research on different blockchains, and they had the conclusion that Polkadot is one of the least on expending in energy. So I'm going here to my right. She's the last but not the least, which is very important to talk about legal issues. I was happy and lucky to work with Nathalie. We're here with Daniel Schoenberg as well. He used to be the CLO at the Web3 Foundation. We've been working with some legal, I wouldn't say battles, but with some legal complexities in this crypto world. And Nathalie, right now, you're an expert after 2 years navigating into this very complicated ecosystem. And you have seen how everything has evolving. And on Polkadot, from morphing of being a software, Daniel is here. He was the one who was leading that effort. But right now, you're very much working with the European Union and MiCA. So tell us a little bit more about MiCA, because a lot of people, we have a lot of questions. It is evolving all the time. I know that it's going to be fully launched next year. But we don't know how MiCA will be affecting Polkadot or enterprises or in general.
Thank you. When you're talking about governments, I think there's two ways to address blockchain, right? So one thing is explaining governments, as Ingo did, how they can actually benefit from blockchain technology. And as Ingo said, they don't like giving up control. So this is where the other part of it comes in, right? They're trying to regulate the new technology, especially because it's interfering with money market security, right? We're creating partially, not only, but partially financial products, and this got us down this whole financial regulatory debate, although that's not all we're doing, right? It's one use case out of 1 million in Web3. But that's the debate we're having because we have token that can be traded, bottom line. And it all started with stablecoins. So MiCA is being enacted or becoming, how do you say, valid as of December this year, and their main focus was looking into or regulating stablecoins and everything else they could cover. They quickly realized anything decentralized, we can't really regulate it the way we know how to regulate stuff by nailing down an intermediary and making that intermediary responsible and liable for everything and making that intermediary report. Right? Usually that would be a bank. Report to us all the transactions. With decentralization, who is the responsible? The open source community, who's liable? A lot of questions still unanswered. So while MiCA has some advantages that, like right now in the US, you don't have it, right? You don't have legal certainty in the US because you don't have a law, and therefore you have an SEC running after everybody. At least in Europe, we can say right now we have a legal framework that more or less captures everything, although leaving some open questions. So stablecoins, I would say, right now, more or less defined, and they know what to do to be compliant. So that gives us legal certainty. And exchanges, CAFs, also being more or less in a framework they know how to operate in. So that's a lot of legal certainty for businesses within Europe. But we have decentralized projects, right? Something like utility token, other digital assets, Ethereum, something like this. This is not entirely defined. We just know right now they're not obliged to have a white paper. White paper is crucial because it comes with a lot of liability. So if an investor loses their token, whoever wrote the white paper is responsible for that. So that's a lot of pressure. And now think of new projects. So this is where the effect comes in. Old projects that want to be listed on an exchange are grandfathered. They don't necessarily have to have a white paper, and they might have negotiation power with exchanges because exchanges want to list you. So maybe the exchange has to provide the white paper.
I do have an extra question. So that means that banks are going to be competing with exchanges as well?
I don't know. I don't think this is the problem. The problem is who has to provide the white paper and therefore has the responsibility and the liability for that token. So in this case, bank or not bank, is it the exchange that has to provide the white paper or the project? And let's say for the bigger projects out there, they have the negotiation power to say, I'm not providing, we're decentralized, we're not providing it, we're grandfathered, but an exchange might have to do it. But if you're a startup, you're new, you don't have that negotiation power. And we will see a lot of startups struggling in the European Union as a hurdle to get in, because taking on the liability of a white paper is a lot to ask. And that's one thing. And the other thing is the issuance, right? So if you're issuing a token, you have to all of a sudden comply to financial market regulations, which are very difficult. So I wonder, and I think a lot of startups will have to reconsider the way they're issuing tokens. So maybe they will not fund themselves with a classic ICO, because that might be considered a financial instrument. Maybe they have to divert to airdrops in order to distribute their token to their users, or other ways to distribute it. So I think we will see some changes in the way things are done because of the regulation, because otherwise a lot of startups will have a difficult time. So there are benefits in terms of legal certainty, but also I think startups will have a harder time entering the market.
There's a lot of legal work right now. Because as I understand, MiCA will be live by January 2025, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it's as of January, it's like enacted, but I think exchanges have like a grandfathering period of 2-3 years to be fully compliant. So the whole debate on who has to do the white paper in those negotiations still up, but what is, as of December, is this obligation to provide sustainability data in all token. And this is an obligation mainly exchanges have to provide, and the pressure is on by December on them.
Well, so you all have to be aware that if you're a crypto startup, you will have to do all of these papers. So one of the last questions that I wanted to ask to everyone here on this panel, especially the ones that are building with Polkadot. And this is a typical question that we always ask many, many times. But we've been having different publics. Why have you chose Polkadot to build your startup?
Maybe I'll start on that one. So Aventus has been through many iterations over the years. We started as an event ticketing protocol on Ethereum, looking at how we can solve secondary market problems with tickets, right? So this was in 2017, before there were big conferences like this. And in going through that journey, the first problem was scalability. So we were still on Ethereum, and we did a review of the market, Tendermint, Substrate, the various other technologies, Ethereum itself, and we picked technology, Polkadot for the technology, for the Substrate technology. I guess Gavin and his team, from learning on building Ethereum, learned how to really build that in a modular and scalable way for enterprise. So we were actually never part of Polkadot itself. We just picked the technology, built that as a layer 2 on Ethereum for a while, and then I think 2020, 2021, we migrated into the Polkadot ecosystem for the variety of other benefits that kind of launched with the relay chain. So from our perspective, it was always very solid technology. What didn't matter so much was sort of user traction, DeFi traction, because we go after very traditional industries, supply chain, aviation, loyalty and rewards. So that was less relevant. But I think also the compliance. When you see different projects, there were a whole list of tokens. The SEC has at some point said, our securities changed their mind. DOT has never been part of that conversation. And to us, that was very helpful.
Thank you, Daniel. He's here, and he's been working with Nathalie on all of that as well.
Yeah, so for us, that made it much less risky.
Ingo.
Yeah, so the first part, I think Alan has already mentioned. So what we needed as a chain for digital identity is constant, stable cost, and that you can actually only achieve if you run your own blockchain. And when we started in 2018, there were not too many frameworks out there on which you could build a blockchain, and one of them was Substrate, and it was like miles ahead of everything else. And so we said we're going to use the best and newest technology. But then it turned out that also the mindset in the community is very close to what our mindset is, like not scamming, actually building, looking at the science behind everything, actually delivering something that is so stable that it could actually be used by government and big industry. And this is why we stayed now in the Polkadot ecosystem for over 6 years now. So we are basically the OGs probably of the ecosystem, and we're still here.
Very short. We are running out of time. Very
Sure.
short.
So obviously coming from Parity Technologies, and it was when I made the decision to go and work there and change industries, I was really careful about what ecosystem I wanted to attach myself to. Obviously all the work that's gone into the DOT token in terms of with the SEC, that was a big driving factor. And when I think you're talking about enterprise businesses, you want to have shared security, and that's what the relay chain offers. And for us as a DApp, we may want to develop one day into a layer 1. Within the Polkadot ecosystem, that makes it very easy to do so. So, yeah, multiple.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. A big applause to my colleagues here that they've been representing this panel. Thank you.
Thanks.